Okay, so we are given three different functions, and we are asked to evaluate the function at a specific x value. So here, the f right here, this f right here, tells us that we're using this function. Okay, now the number in the parentheses is a 2. That 2 there tells us that we are going to find what the function's value is when we replace all the x's with a 2. So I'm going to plug in a 2 here, and I'm going to plug in a 2 here. And then I'm going to use my order of operations, which parentheses are first, but there's no parentheses in this function. I put them there, so then the next thing is exponents, so we're going to do 2 to the second power, which is 4, and this negative right here is just brought down. It is not included, because this is saying that only the x is being squared. If they wanted the number to be negative and squared, it would have been written like this, but it wasn't. That negative is not included, so we just bring it down. Another way to think about it, if it helps you, is that in front of every variable, we could put a coefficient of a 1. So this is essentially saying -1 times x squared. So if it helps you, you can put a -1 right here. So then it would look like this. -1, so this is -1 times x squared, which is -4. So that's another option. If it helps you, put the -1 there. Okay, so then next in order of operations is multiplication and division from the left to the right. So we have here a positive 3 times 2, which is positive 6. And then lastly, we are going to add and subtract. So we have -4 plus 6 is 2, and then 2 plus 5 is 7. So f of 2, when we plug in 2 for x, we get a y value, or an output of 7. So our answer is 7. Okay, if we take a look at 9b here, we are asked to use function g, so that's how we know to use this one right here. And then instead of x, it's telling us to plug in a -5, so we want to find g of -5. So we're going to take out the x's and plug in a -5. And then we're going to use our order of operations. And there's no parentheses in this original problem. So then the next thing we do is exponents. Oops, and I see I missed this right here. There was an exponent right there. So that's the first thing we need to do is this. So that is -5 times -5, which is 25. So this is 25. And then we know when we have a number right here, this number was right next to this x. That means times. So that's why we put this parenthesis right here. It shows us multiplication right here. So that -4 is being times there. Okay, so now we're going to multiply and divide from the left to the right. So we have multiplication here. So -4 times 25 is -100. And then here we have multiplication, -2 times -5, that is positive 10. And then -100 plus 10, that is -90. So when we plug in -5 as the input, we get an output of -90. So our answer up here is -90. So just to point out, make sure oftentimes when students solve a problem like this, they immediately want to multiply -4 times -5. But remember, multiplication is here in order of operations. What comes before it is the exponents. So you want to make sure that you do the exponents first. And since x is -5, x squared, remember, means this, that there's two of them. So that's why the -5 times -5, that's why it's a positive 25 here. All right, last one here. So we're going to use this function because it says h, and this one's the one that's has the name h. And then instead of x, it's telling us in parentheses here what to plug in for for x. So we are going to plug in right here a -1. So then this says 3 minus -1, which makes 4. So when we input a -1, we get an output of 4. So our answer here is just 4.